Hey, how you doing? In the last video, I talked about the idea of identity shifting, and we looked at how changing how we see ourselves can really lead to positive, lasting change in our lives. If you haven't watched either of the first two videos in this series yet, I recommend that you watch them first. The playlist is up here. Today, we're going to talk about the external. We're going to get outside of that internal part and look at the external and look at how social norms and cultural expectations can have a huge impact on what we do. You know, I've heard plenty of people telling me over the years since I've been coaching that, we've been drinking for thousands of years. And you're probably right, but how's that going to help you specifically? You know, anyone who thinks like this is really looking for an excuse to carry on drinking. It's a fact that alcohol has been in our society, it's gradually been woven into our thinking and into our cultures for thousands of years. It's part of the celebrations, of the relaxation, of the socializing. When you feel good, it's a good time to drink. When you feel bad, it's a good time to drink. You know, I've had a lot of clients over the years that have said to me, I'm unable to do business properly because the people that I'm trying to do business with, they won't trust me if I don't have a drink with them. You know, I used to think that peer pressure was something that was doled out when you were in school, right? When some bright-minded kid brought a packet of fags to school and was willing to share with everyone, right? In reality, it's just group mentality, you know, and it carries on throughout your life. And one of the things that I learned quickly when I stopped drinking alcohol, or after I stopped drinking alcohol, that very few people like getting drunk around other people who are not getting drunk. You know, it is what it is, right? You know, if your social life revolves around alcohol, you're going to feel a little bit isolated when you try to stop, right? When you try to change, you know, you'll feel like the odd one out if you try and continue the same kind of a social life that you were continuing before, but you don't drink anymore. But, you know, this is just a mindset. It's just a way of thinking about things. You know, one of the biggest barriers for me when I was stopping drinking alcohol was that socializing aspect. You know, I felt like I just couldn't have any fun whatsoever if I didn't have a few brews in front of me and I wasn't around people who weren't drinking. And then when I stopped, I really felt like a Billy No Mates, but you know, that's the habit talking. You know, I started drinking properly as soon as I could legally get inside the pubs. And one of my biggest motivations was always drowning out the shyness that I felt when I was younger. But there's a problem with that, and that's that you're medicating the symptoms and not dealing with the root cause, right? You know, I was hiding from the feelings of shyness instead of learning how to deal with them like you do, like you're supposed to do when you're young. You know, when you're a teenager, when you get into your early 20s and you start going out into the world on your own, that's when you learn how to deal with all these emotions about these things. They're bound to happen. But people talk about taking a drink to escape reality. And the problem is that they're not escaping any reality, they're just creating an alternative reality, right? A worse version of reality. And every drink that you take helps you to feed that worse version of yourself. And it's a trap because alcohol puts your mind into a dumb state while you're drunk, but it puts you into a much worse position into the long run, right? So we're not just talking about habit change here. And, you know, I don't think you should use the word addiction here either. I think that's a big cop-out. I think it's a big word that has no definitive meaning, right? And it just puts you at a huge disadvantage when you're trying to make any change happen, right? For me, the easiest to deal with area of stopping drinking alcohol is just that day-to-day stuff. You know, you've been doing this for a long time, right? You've been drinking for a long time. So everything on that day-to-day basis is just a routine. It's a predictable program that's kicked off, right? So you have the trigger and it kicks off the habit, and that plays out in a really consistent manner. And because it's a routine, because you have the consistency in the habit on a day-to-day basis, right? You can fairly accurately predict what's going to happen when you don't do the routine, right? So that makes things much easier. It makes things much easier to deal with on that day-to-day basis, right? And this is all, it makes it all very practical, very straightforward. And the biggest challenge is always going to be changing that inner identity, right? And that includes how you see yourself as a drinker, seeing yourself as a drinker in the first place, and how you think about yourself, how you interact with others, how you think about your socializing, your relaxing, your dealing with unwanted emotions. You know, all of these triggers, all of these things that in the past would have led you to have a drink. You know, every temptation that you face is going to play into that underlying part of your old identity. And, you know, that's where all of the failures happen, all the fear of missing out, all the peer pressure, all the inner stories that you tell yourself, right? These are all things that are going to pull you back into your old drinking life very, very quickly. All right, the first videos in any course that I do are all going to be about setting some simple ground rules, right? Setting up how we define things, making sure that we're all shooting from the same page. And like I said, if somebody says addiction or somebody says alcoholic, everybody thinks that we're talking about the same thing, and we're not, right? Worst, I think, is when somebody, when they accept the addiction or the alcoholic as a prognosis or as a solution. Now, only you have the power to change, but that doesn't mean you're not going to face some sometimes pretty stiff challenges along the way, right? External and internal. But I think it's smart to focus on what's going to give you the best return for your time and energy. So we're going to concentrate on ideas that give you as much control as possible, and then we're going to look at some practical solutions. You know, we only think we need alcohol because it's been drummed into our brains over and over and over again. You know, when the crap hits the fan, when we get into trouble, we tend to blame something internal, right? Something within ourselves for the problem. You know, a lot of people do that. A lot of people blame something external as in, well, it's not my fault, it's because I've got my childhood or my parents or my job or whatever it is, right? But it's when you start looking at the internal stuff, when you start to say to yourself, well, it's my genetics, it's something that's wrong with my brain, right? It's something that's wrong with, I've got a disease, you know. But the real problem in all of these cases is the toxins that you've been putting into your body over these years. So once you get that idea out of your head that you need alcohol for anything, right, you'll be in a much better place to make the changes happen. All right, so that's it for this one. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. In the meantime, if you want to stop drinking alcohol, we've got several sections in our preparation module for working through some of the mental aspects of what you're likely to come across in the first few weeks. And it's absolutely free. It's just click on that first description below. And if you're looking for something different, we've just started another channel. I'm sharing some of the journeys that I'm making because I stopped drinking alcohol, what I'm using all my time and energy for on that. So, and that's the second link down below if you're into that kind of stuff. Now, in the next video, we're going to make a start on seeing the problem for what it is and accepting the need to make some swift changes before it's too late. You know, everybody who stops drinking alcohol and makes the changes happen, they say the same damn thing. I wish I'd have done it sooner. And that's me included. But it's just tough, right? It's not going to happen. At best, you can only start where you are right now. Now, the way I look at it is this. I might not have made the changes back then when I should have made the changes, but I made the changes when I did. And I'm 12 years into this now. And I look at it like, if I didn't stop back then, where would I be now? I'd probably be 6 foot under, right? Instead of living a good life that I'm living now, right? So, you know, the same with you. If you don't start now, where you're going to be in a year or where you're going to be in 5 years' time, you know, it's a challenge. But getting anything good is always on your own steam, and it's always going to be a challenge, right? But if you don't challenge yourself, you've absolutely no chance of overcoming anything, right? So this is Kevin O'Hara for Habits Feed 2 signing out. Take care of yourself. Keep the alcohol out of your mouth. Onwards and upwards. Bye now.